I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, June the 26th, 2014. Israeli President Shimon Peres received the Congressional Gold Medal today at the U.S. Capitol in Washington. The medal was presented to Peres by U.S. Vice President Joe Biden and congressional leaders in recognition of his contributing to the bilateral relations between the U.S. and Israel and for his passionate and ongoing efforts for peace. Biden called Peres a national treasure not just to the state of Israel, but to the U.S. as well. Peres thanked the U.S. for its unwavering support and friendship and addressed the many challenges that Israel faces. He said that despite the difficult days ahead and in the past, he will never lose hope to achieve peace. Peres specifically mentioned the 3 yeshiva students kidnapped 2 weeks ago in the West Bank and urged support for the boys and urged the need to speak out against terrorism wherever it may take place. This is the first time the Congressional Medal was presented to an Israeli head of state. And Peres spoke to the press yesterday after meeting with U.S. President Barack Obama at the White House, where he said that he and the president addressed several issues, including Iran, the peace process, and the kidnapped boys. Peres said Obama told him that his heart was with the families of the boys and that the U.S. would do everything it could to support Israel in ensuring their safe return home. Peres also did raise the issue of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard with the U.S. president, making a final official appeal as president of Israel for Pollard's release on humanitarian grounds. The Jerusalem Post reports that Peres said Obama told him that he would have American Attorney General Eric Holder look into the possibility of a commutation. The IDF continues its search for the kidnapped yeshiva students, which took place 2 weeks ago today. 10 more Palestinian suspects were arrested overnight last night in the West Bank. Earlier this week, a New York synagogue decided to show its support for the boys in a big way. The New York Post reports that Young Israel of the West Side bought space for a 40 by 40-foot advertisement on a digital billboard in Times Square to raise awareness and support for Gilad Sharer, Naftali Frankel, and Eyal Yifrach. The screen hangs between 47th and 48th Streets in Manhattan, and the ad is featured for 15 seconds twice an hour. Israel's Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman met today with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in Paris, where he thanked Kerry for the support of the U.S. with regard to the kidnapping, and also gave the Secretary of State a letter from the boys' families requesting to meet with him. Lieberman also spoke to Kerry about the recently established Palestinian Unity Government and suggested to Kerry that what was needed now was a regional agreement with moderate Arabs, as opposed to a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. Lieberman said that at the moment, a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians was not possible, but that instead, quote, we must reach an overall regional agreement. Lieberman said Israel's long-standing conflict is not only with the Palestinians, but with the Arab world of which the Palestinians are a part. Therefore, he said we must reach an agreement that will include the moderate Arab states, the Palestinians, and the Israeli Arabs. He said creating this new political and diplomatic structure in the Middle East would unite Israel and moderate Arab states to fight against Islamist extremism and the threat of a nuclear Iran. A French court today ordered the extradition of the man suspected of the deadly attack at the Jewish Museum in Brussels last month that left 4 people dead, including an Israeli couple. A Versailles court said today that Mehdi Nemouche should be handed over to Belgian authorities. Nemouche is expected to appeal that decision. Meanwhile, a memorial was held today in Belgium for the victims of the Brussels shooting. The memorial was held at the European Jewish Community Center and was attended by officials including Acting President of the European Parliament, Gianni Pittella, General Director of the European Jewish Association, Rabbi Menachem Margolin, and Belgium's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Didier Reynders. Pittella said, we are here today to pay tribute to 4 innocents who lost their life due to actions of one man. He said this act was not just against peaceful individuals, but an attack towards our European values. adding that the EU must eradicate anti-Semitism and xenophobia in any form. The wife of jailed Jewish American contractor Alan Gross visited her husband in prison in Cuba this week, her first visit with him since the death of his mother last week. Alan Gross has been in prison in Cuba since 2009 when he was arrested and sentenced to 15 years for, quote, crimes against the state, for providing computer and internet access to the Jewish community there. Judy Gross called on the U.S. government once again to find a way to release her husband, suggesting a possible trade for the remaining spies of the Cuban Five, something the U.S. has not agreed to in the past. Gross made a statement from Havana yesterday referring to the recent trade made for U.S. Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. She said, if we can trade 5 members of the Taliban to bring home 1 American soldier, surely we can figure out a path forward to bring home 1 American citizen from a Cuban prison. And turning now to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Thursday, June the 26th, UJA Federation of New York's Dr. John Ruskay, Shalom Hartman Institute North America's Yehuda Kurtzer, and others talked about the differences between advocating for Israel and educating about Israel. And then at 9 o'clock tonight on L'chaim, Mark Golub is joined by author and advocate Joshua Safran. That's tonight here on Shalom TV and shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, June the 26th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.